Hi everyone, it's Roger and James here from the What's on Disney Plus podcast. In this week's episode, we're going to be talking about all of this week's new Disney Plus news. So we're going to be talking about Disney spending a load of money on Bamtech. We're going to be talking about some of the new Asian content that was announced. We've got loads of new trailers announced at the Brazilian Comic-Con. Plus, we'll be sharing our thoughts on some of this week's new releases. But before we go any further, make sure you do subscribe here on YouTube. You can also find us on all the different audio platforms. You can become a Patreon and a YouTube channel member, which will help support and cover the site and everything like that. And it all just helps towards the running a bit. So let's jump into it. So kind of last night, really, for us, we had a load of trailers drop from at the Brazilian Comic-Con Experience. So definitely seems to be getting a little bit bigger, a lot more trailers. So we saw the Indiana Jones Dial of Destiny trailer. What did you think of that one?
Not an incredible amount good, I would have to say. It's Indiana Jones. It'll be fun. They obviously had some action scenes built into it. You can tell that it's looking like it's higher quality than Crystal Skull or whatever it was called. Yeah. But man, Harrison does not look like he wants to be there at all.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the main thing.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, because it's kind of funny, because I think I saw the majority of this trailer at the D23 Expo.
Mm-hmm.
So most of this, I kind of was like, we've seen this before. I think it looks fun. It just looks like more Indiana Jones. Plenty of like youthful versions of him to kind of de-age him for some of the scenes. It looks fun. I'm willing to go in this one. Kind of like, I think because of Crystal Skull, my expectations are so low that it's like that if that movie never existed, it would be so much better. And actually, we had all the hype about him coming back, and it was an awful movie. So it's I think that's going to set it quite low. And therefore, in some ways, it's probably going to be better, because we'll probably be like, oh, that was all right. Yeah, it should be fun. I'd still in that zone of like, they should have just restarted the franchise in another 10 years or so.
Or just let it kind of stay in its current form and start something new. I mean, you've got National Treasure sitting right over there. You've got plenty of other franchises. Let it end. But like you said, I have to agree. My expectations for this are so low that it's almost impossible for them to not meet them and exceed them. But I mean, Crystal Skull also showed that they can, in fact, miss very low expectations.
Yeah. So that one's going to be interesting. That's coming out in cinemas in June. We're also getting in May, we're going to be getting Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. So this one was all new. This one was the big kind of reveal, really. I'm surprised they did it so close to Indiana Jones on the same night, but this one looks fun. Kind of Star-Lord being a bit miserable and kind of having to they kind of go to some kind of alternative Earth. So it looks fun. It's more Guardians, especially after the Halloween or not the holiday special last week. I'm kind of in the zone, like, I'm up for this. And there's all this kind of, it's the end of the group. It's like they'll be back. There's no way they're going to let this franchise go off. And Groot and Rocket at least can carry on.
Yeah, it might be that it's the end of the group as we know it, but the Guardians will exist in some form, and it is meant to to draw a line under James Gunn's versions of the Guardians, especially since he's going off and masterminding DC after this is done. But yeah, it's a good trailer. It doesn't really give away too much. Obviously, Rocket's going to be a big focus. They're talking about his origin story and bringing a couple of characters back for that. Other than that, it's a decent start for the teaser trailer. It's mostly just to go, yes, Guardian 3 is on its way, and we'll get more details closer to the actual launch.
There was also like a little kind of sneaky peeky at Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. I'm kind of surprised they're not focused a little bit more on that, because that's obviously the next big release. Nothing on Secret Invasion. We didn't get anything like that, which is obviously going to be the next big release on Disney Plus. They did also confirm that The Mandalorian Season 3 will be dropping onto Disney Plus on the 1st of March. It goes into spring, so it's only slightly delayed from February into March. But I think we all should definitely make note. Disney have a tendency to move dates when they announce them months this far in advance, because it's 4 months away. But it's also probably that thing like, keep your Disney Plus subscription. It is coming. It is coming. Yes.
I mean, that's the eternal fight. We've talked about it plenty of times. Don't give up your Disney Plus subscription. Look at all the other things we have going on. I think most people are kind of wise to that kind of deal at this point. So either they will stick around, or they'll wait for Mandalorian Season 3 to finish and come back when it's done and binge the whole thing. So
yeah, so that was pretty cool. So that was the big ones from the Comic-Con experience. Also yesterday it was revealed that the Magic of the Animal Kingdom is returning on the first of January on the National Geographic channel, and then it's also going to be dropping on the 4th of January, the entire series on Disney Plus in the US. Now, because of this linear release, this might completely be a bit of a block on how quickly it can be arrived. It's going to be we're gonna have to wait and see what happens. I wouldn't like to guarantee it's going to be released, because the minute it goes on to linear, the rules just suddenly all break. And this does feel a little bit like a Chapek. Let's shift this, because now this is a linear television show. It's not a Disney Plus original, so it's like all the costs got shifted to another department.
All the costs got shifted, and it also feels like, towards the end of his run there, he was also trying to see what ways he could shift things around to get publicity higher or make shows, people more aware of shows. Obviously, higher profile shows like Andor ending up on multiple channels to get people to go, hey, we've got this show, it's really good, maybe you want to watch it. And Mysterious Benedict Society and so on. So yeah, this feels like it's kind of in the same alley as that.
Yeah, they have put the first season on National Geographic in the past. It's not like it actually, I think this makes sense with Nat Geo to utilize, like with Limitless and Supernatural. You might as well use these shows on all the platforms, because I don't think people are signing up for Disney Plus just for these ones. So I think it actually makes a lot of sense for them to do that. So this one makes and it makes sense with the Disney show. I think we are going to see more of this anyway, of shows being shared, because the value of an original on Disney Plus, I do think, isn't quite as high financially as it was now that they've kind of got people signed up.
Absolutely. They need to make sure they've got the revenue streams coming in. And as we have talked about, again, it's very hard to track what shows bring in what money to Disney Plus, especially since they're not doing the premium launches like Mulan again. So if you are a person and you watch 50 shows in a month, then the amount of money that each of those shows gets from you is very small. But if you're the kind of person who you watch Mandalorian and Andor and She-Hulk and that is it, then it's much, you're obviously more high value in terms of individual shows.
Yeah. Speaking of profits, so earlier this week, Bob Iger did like a Q&A with cast members. It was streamed just for cast members, and obviously the information got out. One of the things that it brought up was the fact that they are now primarily focused on making Disney Plus profitable. This is going into a new era. This is kind of carrying on, really, I think, what Chapek was doing anyway. But now he's got to fix the hole in the budget. I mean, we got the ad tier coming in this week. We've also got the price rise coming in a number of countries, including the US, Australia, and New Zealand this week as well. All of which will help fill the void. But we are in a zone now of Disney Plus is moving into a different era now. They have to start making money. And I don't know if it's like, it feels like, I mean, they had always said it was going to be 2024. I think they naturally were going to get there. But it feels like now it's like, yeah, no, we can't keep putting off. It's like any business. Every business that gets to a point where it's like, yeah, we've been spending money building it. Now it needs to start bringing in some money.
Right. And since this is a streaming platform, that does mean that rather than being able to make more money on the platform, it probably means spending less money on the content on the platform. Now, I think for Disney, that's going to mean shoveling the money into a few high profile projects rather than like what Netflix is currently doing, which is kind of throwing it at everything and hoping that there's enough people gathering in for the Korean dramas and the things that they're picking up. But that does mean in the next several years, probably starting in 2024 and moving forward from there, you can expect less big budget shows. However, if it means that they're consolidating resources, those big budget shows might even be better than they are right now.
Yeah, I think we're going to see less of the unknown stuff, less of everything's going to have to be a little bit tighter on the budget. The thing is with Disney, and I definitely feel like seeing it internationally, you really do see it with they are releasing so many shows a week and so many films and specials and stuff that you really do actually go, well, they could spread this out much better. They could spread this out a little bit better. And this is the trouble with having so many different outlets of, like, putting on Hulu, then putting on Disney. If you put the Hulu and Disney Plus stuff together, like we do internationally, you suddenly then go, oh, well, oh yeah, you've got some good stuff dropping in. You don't need as much. You don't need as much stuff to drop in there. And then you got all the legacy shows and all the rest of it. So I think we are going to see a shift over to all of this. In the future, it's going to take a while to kick in. I think like the Marvel and Star Wars stuff, I think they were naturally going to start fizzling out a little bit because the way the audience is responding to it, and also like you've hooked, and I think that we're still going to get stuff. I don't think we're not going to go Kotak. We're not going to do that anymore. It's like, no, they're going to do it, but I think this year might be, we got a lot of movies, a lot of series. I think this might be maybe the peak of the content coming in 2023. And then but then it's like, with Daredevil dropping in 2024, if that's 18 weeks, that's enough for the Marvel. You get a free throw, a couple of you throw maybe another shorter series and a Star Wars series in, that's a whole year.
Right. And I think the other thing to keep in mind, of course, is that this past year and moving into 2023, a lot of the shows were really just kind of like, we didn't have resources during COVID. We couldn't make shows. Everything's locked down. And all of a sudden, all the shows are finishing at the same time. Yeah. And they're just kind of tossing them out, barring yet another weird variant of COVID coming out and screwing everything up. We're probably not going to see that kind of compression of content again.
No, I mean, I think we're still going to have issues with it, but I think we're kind of past the point now of shutting down. Or I think they all realize they can't do that again. No, I don't think the world can afford it. But yeah, so that's there. I mean, also this past week it was revealed in an SEC filing that Disney spent over $900 million buying out a 10% stake of Bamtech, which is actually known as Disney Streaming, or the Disney Streaming Service. And they run, obviously, Hulu, Disney Plus, Star Plus, ESPN Plus. So this company was created about over 20 odd years ago by the Major League Baseball. And Disney started picking up some stock. They picked up I think it's like a 30 odd % stake back in 2016. They then spent another $+ billion buying another 40 odd %. Then I think it was last year, they then had to buy a stake from one of the other big sports companies to getting him up to 90%. And the MLB had a deal that basically meant they had to be brought out by 2023. So Disney had finished the contract to essentially get full control over Bamtech. Bamtech basically doesn't exist as a brand now. It's been completely rebranded Disney Streaming. It is now, a lot of people are going, well, why have they spent this much money? They're trying to save money. It's like, well, this is they've already done the deal. It was already in place. They just had to finish it. And now means Disney have got full control of the business that makes their streaming service. It means they can go out and find other companies that they want to build stuff for that, because that's possible, because they originally built the HBO Max app, the original WWE Network app, the Major League Baseball app. They've worked on a number of different streaming services, but now they're just primarily focused on the Disney one. It now means that Disney was not going to have to give information to other companies, and it's just simpler now. It's part of their, and all of that will be written off as a purchase, but it means now that they have got a full control of their own tech. The whole, everything that Disney Plus and this stuff is built on is theirs. They own the company behind it. And I think a lot of people don't necessarily understand how much, they spent probably about $3 or $4 billion buying all of this. I'm not trying to get up already.
No, I'm sorry.
That was that's just normally the sun. Gotta get up.
Yeah, I know. I apologize to all that probably triggered a whole bunch of people.
I did. That's especially as Apple use. That's definitely the one that gets us up. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it is fun. I feel like buying out this deal, it just means now that they can close it off. They've got full control of it. Now they just need one little purchase to get themselves fully out of this situation with Comcast. But yeah, so there's a lot of, it's kind of one of those weird things that a lot of people going, well, and then they're spending money on both. They're trying to cut costs, but if you've agreed to make deals, you have to complete them. It costs, so yeah, so it's, at least now they have got full control now of Disney streaming.
Yeah, and I do feel like people don't understand that we're going to spend less money or we are going to try and make more money. Doesn't mean you're not acquiring things. It doesn't mean you're not still spending money. You have to spend to make, right?
Yeah.
And this is a pretty big purchase for them for a lot of reasons, which you already went over.
Mm.
So yes, on one hand, you've got Iger up here going, we got to tighten the purse strings, we got to make Disney Plus profitable, and then turning around and doing this. Like, well, this deal is years old. The businesses move at a glacial pace. So even if Iger changes the direction of Disney entirely, like right now he's like, we have a new mandate, we're going to open a park in Brazil and do all these things, nothing is going to happen for years. That's how long these things take, and that is true of mergers and purchases and acquisitions as well.
Yeah, I feel like, especially, I mean, like, they're going to be carrying on with the hiring freeze. I think this doesn't necessarily affect like frontline workers and stuff, like at the parks and stuff. It's been so much talk of all of this, of what Disney are going to be doing over the coming years ahead, but we're just going to have to wait. I don't think we're going to hear much now for the rest of this year. I think we're only about another week away or so from all the holiday stuff. People are starting to slow down and close off, So, and I also think I could probably needs a few weeks or couple of months to actually get all this, like get plans and strategies and meet up with the different people and work everything out. We have to give them a little bit of time. It wasn't so. I think that's something to definitely take into consideration. Right, now let's talk. Also, this past week, Disney held a special event in Singapore, which was the content showcase. So they announced a number of new shows that are going to be coming up. They also showed off some of the new films and things coming up. Some of the upcoming like Japanese titles include Tokyo Revenger's Christmas Showdown Arc. We got Gannibal, Dragons of Wonder Hatch, and House of the Owl. From Australia, we're getting things like the new Artful Dodger limited series, Last Days of the Space Age. We're also going to be getting some new Korean shows as well. Whole host of stuff. This one's, they really kind of went in big and kind of set up for the next year a load of new shows and stuff that we'll be seeing, majority of which will be released internationally. And again, this is all part of a global expansion. They have to make content, and they have to make content for people to subscribe, but also in every country that Disney Plus is operating in, it has to make content for that local audience, because local content brings in local, launching in the, it's, I think it's sometimes harder, maybe like with the US. If you turn around and we're like, yeah, well, if we didn't make anything in the United States and everything was imported, it just wouldn't, it's that kind of weird thing of like, yeah, we do need international content. It just happens to be now that we have a global platform for releasing it. Before, you probably never would have seen it in the old ways. But also local rules as well. A lot of countries are bringing in rules of like, they want the streaming services to contribute. They don't just want them coming in and taking money and leaving. That's one of the big problems as well of, they want to keep their film industries going. And it's a big part of it. It's a global platform. And I like the fact now we're getting into these like global releases and giving us something a little bit different. I think that's always a good thing.
Yeah, I love getting stuff from other countries, because you always get new perspectives from them. Even if the show doesn't end up being particularly good or doesn't click with you, you typically find out things that you didn't know about. I would use going with the Japanese show Sumo Do, Sumo Don't. We talked about it the first week it came out. Didn't really click for me. I know you didn't see it, but that's mostly because of subtitles versus dubs. But even though it didn't click, it's like, oh, it's cool kind of seeing how the Japanese are doing things, learning a little bit about that. Learned a lot about sumo. And so between this and like Snowdrop, which was the Korean show, we're getting voices that we wouldn't get over here. And I love just getting those, and I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of these shows. A lot of them don't sound like they're going to be for me, but I'm going to give them a shot anyway, because, you never know what's actually going to work out for you.
I also feel there's this kind of feeling, and I know the US Disney Plus side is not really used to this as much, but it's variety, offering different things for different people. And I also look at it along the lines of like, if you're making a series that's primarily aimed at, I don't know, in Korean audience, but essentially like, well, we've made it for them, we're releasing it there, we got what we want out of it, but we're going to put it out everywhere else because we own it, and it's just a bonus. It's literally just like, they could have not have released it and been like, because that would have been the old way of thinking. But I think, things like Squid Game and stuff have shut, and the popularity of anime, I mean, Bleach is so popular on Disney Plus around the world. and it's just more content. If you don't want to watch it, and I feel like here, I know, like with me with Disney Plus now, I am at that point where there are some shows I just don't watch because there's just so much being released. It's like it's not for me. I don't have to, and you kind of move past that point. Whereas I think in the US we're still in that zone of, well, if it's not, there's only 3 things coming out a week. I want them all to be for me. But when you're getting 15 different shows a week, you don't have to watch everything. It's a very different way of looking at it. Like American Horror Story New York City drops every week. My wife watches it, but I don't. That's
Yeah, this idea of everything has to be for me. As you said, when you're only getting a couple of pieces of content a week, then when the content is not for you, it's much more noticeable. But when you've got 10, 15, 20 items, it doesn't matter. Sumo do, sumo don't can drop, and it's like, not for me. I'm going to go watch Willow instead. No problem at all.
I also think as well that it's more, to me, I look at it as more, it's just a bonus. Mm-hmm. It's a bonus that it's being released international everywhere, rather than they could have just locked it off and be like, oh no, it's just we don't think it. But if it grabs an audience somewhere else, it's good. I mean, I remember watching the French series Ozzykin. I really enjoyed that. I'm much more probably drawn to like a serious drama to get into, rather than, because comedy can be, I think, like the Weekend Family. I tried watching that one, but comedy sometimes doesn't hit the same. That's one of the issues sometimes.
A lot of it is much more regional, and I would say again, going back to sumo do, sumo don't, because this actually fits that example very well. There's quite a bit of comedy in it, but a lot of it is very Japanese cultural based. And as someone who is not, living in Japan, isn't immersed in Japanese culture, and just like, I recognize that's a joke, but I don't really get it because I've got no basis for it. Whereas people who live in Japan would be much more like, oh yeah, I get that. It's part of my daily life kind of thing.
I mean, here, like in the international, like we've had Kiss Sixth Sense drop this week, Limbo. We got this Turkish one, The Choice. We got the Stolen Cup from Latin America, Revenge of the Others. That one's, I think, coming from Korea. Women of Taipei. I'm guessing that's Taipei. We've got Japanese ones here. We got Shadow Detective is one I should probably check out.
It has an interesting title card, at least.
Yeah, I mean, this is the international side of just most of these I think are on Hulu in the United States. But you can see like this tile is really starting to stack up. Saint Santa Evita is one I should watch as well. Actually,
it's interesting. And what's also interesting is you go over to like Netflix or some of the other streamings, it's not even just international anymore. They've got an entire section with Korean dramas, Asian dramas, European or French, German, etc. And Disney Plus internationally is slowly building up to that point where it will no longer be international. You will have the Korean section, the Japanese section, and so on.
Yeah, so it's looking pretty good. So let's now, before we go into some of the reviews, I want to do a couple of quick shout outs to our Patreon and YouTube channel members. Thank you so much for your continued support, which include Jay, we've got Tim, we've got Chuck, we've got David, we've got Mahmoud, Raphael, Adam, Dana, Ricky, Dave, My VCR Still Works, Bina, Joshua, Dawn, Martin, and also a huge thank you to Sarah for your continued support. Thank you so much. We've also got Aero, Cody, Daniel, Darren, The Juice, Lauren, Paul, Andrew, Elliot, Jacob, Caleb, Red Mars Man. Thank you so much for your support. And there will be a Q&A this coming Sunday, but it's going to be pre-recorded. I've got a last-minute event that I'm going to. I'm going to be going and seeing a film that I can talk about in about a week or two's time that's coming out. That's why I'm not going to be able to make it, because I'm going to be traveling back from London. Right, so let's talk about some of this big week's new releases. So I'm going to start off with one and this week we are recording like a day earlier, so James has not had the chance to watch some of, but a new movie called Derby of the Dead. It dropped onto Hulu in the United States. It was supposed to drop onto Disney Plus internationally, but it didn't turn up. So I'm guessing it's been delayed, which is unfortunate. It's a film basically about a teenage girl. She can see dead people, and she helps them move on to the next place. Never really any idea. For an idea of moving on to somewhere else, they never really go into the religion side of it. It's just that they go somewhere that's nicer than where they are now. And she helps them pass over. Unfortunately, the school, like it girl, cheerleader, local bully, all that kind of stuff, she dies with a hair straightening accident. And she basically haunts Darby into putting on the Sweet 17 birthday party. and makes the girl become the popular kid. Now, it's fine. It's an okay movie. Now, the thing is, to me, is if I'm going to say to you, James, right, name me some high school stereotypes that we're going to have as a tick box exercise.
Well, if we're gonna do the glow up, then it's obvious. You know, she's gonna go through a whole beauty routine, change her entire look, and now she's the most beautiful girl in school.
Yeah.
There's probably gonna be some bullying scenes at the beginning where she gets where the Darby gets bullied and so on like that. Some sort of athletic event, maybe football.
We've got we got a football match, and there's a football match and cheerleading. So tick.
Football
she does
match
a tryout. She does a tryout for the cheerleader team.
Football match makes it sound like we're talking about soccer. I'm assuming we're talking about American football here. Things like that. Yeah.
Do you think there's a moment where there's a big speech where she talks to the entire crowd?
Of course.
Well, is there a big party?
We
gotta get ready for a party.
All that fun stuff.
Yes. It is a little bit like, oh, come on. It's like, it's such that kind of weird thing of like, just do something. Like, it's just tick. I mean, there's a whole load of references to TikTok and emojis and Instagram and influencers, but it just feels so like a corporate tick box of like, we want to appeal to teenagers. Tick. We're gonna do something about TikTok, and what does she want for Christmas present? Oh, she wants a ring light. It's just
so she can stream.
Yeah, it's just like I mean, I can't say I got loads of.
I know. I definitely. I'm like, oh yeah, I got one right there.
But it is that kind of but again, it's that situation of just like, oh, it's just so cliche. And it does get to the point like you can pin out this movie in your head before you really got there, and it doesn't deliver any twists or turns. It's fun, it's easygoing. I think I gave it like a 3 out of 5 because there's nothing. It's not bad. It's just nothing amazing either. It's just very average. It's a shame. I mean, the Darby, she's seems. The acting and stuff is all pretty good. The other thing as well, and my typical complaint about high schools is they all look about 29. I don't know. I mean, the kid, I don't know. You see kids coming out of high school here, and they're like, because they're all like 16 and like, full of spots, and just like they still look like, they're still young and stuff. But it's just the typical kind of thing of like, and they all drive flash cars and have the best, and then like, so it's very average. So there's that one there. We did also get Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Roderick Rules, a new animated film based on the second book of the series. I did do an interview with Jeff, the creator of Diary of a Wimpy Kid, this week. So check out that interview on the YouTube channel. He did confirm they're making a third film. But he's not allowed to tell me. So that's good. So we got a photo. So this one here, I enjoyed it more than the first film. I liked the dynamic between the brothers. It seemed a little bit more. It didn't feel like a couple of stories chopped up. I mean, it did kind of have that, but they all was leading towards the big reveal of obviously the brothers. Really, they hate each other, but they love each other. That kind of thing. It's good. It's fine. It's perfectly acceptable. It is a low quality Disney Plus animated film for a reason. Jeff even said, these kind of movies is exactly what it fits on Disney Plus because it's lower, they don't have to have all the marketing campaign, and they're just cheaper to make, and they can do these kind of things. I don't think they would exist if they had to go to theatrical. I don't think they'd make enough money to do it. But it's a fun, easy. If you like the first film, you like the second one. I think kids are going to love it. I enjoyed it. It's good, but not in that next tier up. It's just very much a kids adult animated series or animated film.
Right. And the question there would be, is it worth watching this versus watching the movies from several years ago, which I think are generally very well received. So I imagine that people will want to check this out, but will it replace the other ones in long-term viewing? That remains to be seen.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see how all that comes in. So it also had 2 new episodes of Willow. So they dropped us with 2 episodes. Did you have a chance to see both of them?
Those I did. I made a very specific point of watching both of those. I've been excited for the series. And
what did you think of Willow so
I
far?
really enjoyed this quite a bit. It's a good, solid fantasy. It's not gritty like Game of Thrones, House of Dragon, but it's also not just like fairies and prettiness. It kind of straddles the line between them. Uh, really well done, good acting. The story looks like it's going to be very interesting. Obviously, still kind of developing by the end of episode 2. The only complaint that I had was no spoilers. They start off on their adventure, and one of the characters gets offed pretty quickly right there, and it's like, I get it. You're doing the prove that the situation is real and that there are actual consequences, which now means none of the characters are in danger for like the next 3 episodes or so. And I didn't really like that aspect to it, but the rest of it was really fun. This is a good solid fantasy.
I think they did a good idea in dropping both episodes because I think it let people get into it a little bit better. Because I watched. I mean, I think I'm at like episode 5 or 6 now, so I've got I'm a little bit further ahead, which again shows the faith Disney've had to let us see these ones in advance. I really enjoyed the series, especially being able to kind of get into it. I like the original film. It's just nice having something a bit different. I wouldn't say original, but it's nice to have something a bit refreshing to watch. It's got humor in there. It's got, I could probably have done without the American accents are a little bit odd in there, and the fact of how they done. But they kind of, the trouble is with Willow is we only had that one film, and they did have and a lot has changed since they did it, and they're trying to keep it, I would say, modern enough for younger viewers to watch it and connect with it. I love the big guy, the big kind of like the Chewbacca of this one. He's fantastic in it.
The one with the cleaver.
Yeah. The big brute. Every if you're going to put together a team, you need a brute. I love him in it. He's got some great humor and great lines, and he's actually a highlight for me. The brother that got kidnapped was a bit he could have almost been the kid from the Santa Clauses. That kind of a little bit like spoiled brat thing, but yeah, I'm enjoying it. I think it's a great series. It's light, it's family friendly, it's got everything in there. It just feels a bit refreshing after Marvel and Star Wars, and a little bit more serious than any of the Disney Channel stuff. It is a lot of fun. I'm enjoying it. I can't wait to watch more episodes of it, and it's a highlight. It's a highlight of this year so far. I think it's a really good show.
The one thing I'm hoping is that the Prince character, not the one that gets kidnapped, but the Prince character played by the guy who does Flash in the Spider-Man movies, the current Spider-Man movies, he doesn't, to me, seem to have absorbed into that role at this point in through episode 2. I'm still just kind of like, that's Flash from Spider-Man. Why isn't he just kind of like making fun of everybody and explaining how much Peter Parker is an idiot and things like that? I'm kind of hoping as the season progresses, he grows into it.
There's a whole there's a whole middle arc with him as a main character, which is good. It's actually it is good. Well, I like it. Yeah.
And I could say he was definitely starting to transform into that by the end of episode 2, because he has the talk with the girl, and he actually has a little bit more going for him than just, I'm tagging along for the ride because my dad told me I had to go. And you can see some depth building to it. So glad to hear that they're building on it.
They do a lot of building on it. It's just a really fun series, and it's fantasy. And I think like with Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones only recently being on, they were quite serious. They were quite and I don't think like I'm going to say a younger audience might struggle. Well, they shouldn't be watching Game of Thrones anyway, but Lord of the Rings was so boring that I didn't even finish it. It was that dull. I think Willow is going to do it. I think it's great. I think it's a really good series. It obviously, it's got little issues and stuff that I think all of us would do it a little bit differently. But yeah, I think it's good. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, I'm very excited for episode 3 and going on. I'm not going to be getting up at like 6 o'clock in the morning to catch it Wednesday morning, but I will definitely be setting time aside after work. Just sit on the couch, absorb just the show. It's not going to be a second screen watch or anything like that.
No, it's a really good one. So I'm looking forward to watching the last few episodes I need to see. We also had the Santa Clauses this week. Had a new episode drop. As I put out this tweet, and it didn't actually pick up a bit of steam. Was they only love this classic story of a leader that quits and retires because he's been there and he's loved by everyone, but he's had enough, and he picks his replacement. But the replacement doesn't turn out to be very good. And it's a bit of a penny pincher. And then the staff are starting to disappear. They're starting to dislike the new boss, and so they come up with a plan to go and bring the old boss back. It's just like, wow, we got the Bob versus Bob going on here. It is the same storyline.
It kind of is. I hadn't picked up on that actually, but that's a pretty nasty coincidence, to be honest.
It literally is the story of the Bobs.
Yeah. I wish we could say that
the magic was going, and they needed to bring the magic back.
So they brought the other Bob back. Yep.
Yeah.
And now Tim Allen is Bob. You can figure out which one.
Yeah.
From context on your own. But yeah, without going too much into specifics for it's still a solid series. I mean, it's definitely executing well. Tim Allen's doing really well in it. The various other actors are doing well. Cal, I think his name is doing very, very well in his position. It's just that I don't know it's just not entirely clicking. Maybe because it is a little too generic in terms of it. And also there is, we knew this from the trailer, but the cringe humor is starting to come in with Tim Allen's characters trying to reintegrate into reality. And I can't watch those things. I get secondhand embarrassment way too much. And there are scenes where I'm just kind of like curling up into a ball and like, can we move past this, please? Just stop harassing the poor Starbucks people, things like that.
Yeah, no, I'm enjoying it. It's a fun series. There's this kind of situation with this one where it's like, it's only about half an hour. It's like, watch it on a Wednesday evening with my wife. It is safe. It's easy going. I do kind of feel like maybe this should have just been a movie. It would have, and they would have really like trimmed down the storyline a little bit, tidied it up a little bits and pieces a little bit, and to cut a few bits of it out, and it would have worked. But I'm enjoying it. I think the thing is as well of like, it's a series about Santa. I really kind of have a difficulty kind of setting it into a higher level,
right?
And I think it's like, it's for what it is. It's hitting the holiday spot. It's fine. I'm enjoying it. Yeah.
I mean, that is the thing, right? It's Santa Claus. Even if we're not talking about the Santa Claus from this particular franchise, there are expectations, and they're generally pretty straightforward. You don't want to break too far out of the mold of what a Santa Claus story is. So we're not looking for things that are super original. We're just looking for it to be well executed on, which this show is doing. It's, like I said, it's not amazing. It's not breaking the mold, but it has, it's doing a good job of telling the story it wants to tell. And honestly, in this case, this is very much it's not you, it's me kind of situation where for some reason it's not clicking with me the way it should. And honestly, I couldn't tell you why, because there's nothing really wrong with it.
No, I think as well. I think this. I do think the format is like, it probably would have caught your attention. It would have done it. You would have hit it, and it would have gone on. But I think this continued like 5 weeks of it. It's like, oh, you kind of you have almost had that nostalgia hit of him being back, and then it's like, oh yeah,
right.
It's going to be interesting to see how this one works. This one's going to be. Yeah, it's kind of weird because we're like this. Obviously, we're going to got the December. Like, we're in December now, and it's like, we got Willow, we've got Santa Clauses. Those are like the main, and we've got National Treasure coming up soon.
National Treasure, yeah.
So we've got like a fresh batch of series, which is kind of quite refreshing because we've kind of been in like sequel zone for quite a while. So it's quite nice having it. But
well, it's like these are all sequels too.
I'm true. Yeah, that's.
Well, every single one of the ones you mentioned is a sequel.
Yeah. I suppose there's at least that thing. Yeah.
But the thing with these is, no, they don't have the Marvel name attached. They don't have the Star Wars name attached. Willow's got Lucasfilms, which of course is associated with Star Wars, but it's still not the same. But they're all quality shows, all three of them. These are not just like budget items that they're throwing out to die. They put actual effort into Willow. They put actual effort into Santa Claus. We haven't seen National Treasure yet, but at least the trailers make it look like they're taking advantage of what the two movies gave us, and they're putting in an actual action adventure Indiana Jones style thing going on. These are not, shows that are just there to fill space. These are shows that really people should be watching.
I think with Willow as well, there's that kind of thing of it's been gone for so long. I mean, it's been like nearly, it's been 1980 odd. So it's been like 30 plus years since it was last on. So it does feel fresh because we've never really expanded on the Willow era. And it's like, yes, it is leaning on the Willow stuff, but at the same time, it could almost be brand new. Because again, I think because it's been so long and it plays on the nostalgia aspect, but it doesn't fully at the same. It's kind of a weird one. So I think that's why it feels a little bit more refreshing.
No, I think they understood when they were making it that there are people who remember it fondly, or who have friends who remember it fondly. And I had a friend basically sit me down. And we're gonna watch Willow, and this was years ago before the show was even announced. But for most people, it's just a fantasy show that maybe you saw the movie, maybe you didn't. But they've got flashbacks in the show that are clearly from the movie, and then they've got some other flashbacks in there as well that were filmed later. And they've found a good balance between, if you remember the movie, here's a couple of callbacks for you, and if you never watched the movie, don't worry. You don't need to worry about things not making sense.
Yeah, I think it's a real solid show. I think it's a good. And I'm probably in that category now where I'm actually looking forward to having a little bit of a break between the Marvel and the Star Wars stuff, because we've got Star Wars: The Bad Batch coming up next month. I'm enjoying now with Marvel the idea of we got a bit of a break, and I don't think that's a bad thing. And I think it's just Bad Batch will scratch the Star Wars itch, but we've got Mando coming up in a few. Yeah, Willow is just, and between all these different series, and like here in the UK, we got Big Sky coming back pretty soon. I need to watch the new Pentatonics that dropped today as of time of recording, so I haven't got around to watching that one. That's something I know I'm gonna be able to put on while I'm working, and I'll probably I'll probably have that one on a few times. I can see that happening already.
I mean, if the music clicks with you, then
yeah,
certainly. I still don't know who they are, but that's beside the point.
No, it's kind of fun. There's a couple of these like Christmas specials coming up. The one I want to watch, I'm hoping the UK get it as well, is the Christmas country music. So that's the one that's coming up on Disney Plus in a couple of weeks. But yeah, there's lots of great stuff coming. Anything else you've watched this past week on Disney Plus?
Caught up on the Mysterious Benedict Society. We'll talk about that probably when the series ends. I think
that's next week. I think is the finale.
I believe so.
I haven't watched this week's episode. It's kind of been one of those shows of just kind of I suddenly go, oh, I haven't, and I end up watching like 2 episodes and catching up a little bit. I've been watching Grownish season 5. That's kind of been, and this and also, like I said, been watching some other things that have been coming up. Like Roderick Rose, Darby and the Dead, all these kind of movies and stuff. But right, so yeah, I think that's pretty much going to wrap up this week's episode. Again, thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back next week with another episode, and we're going to be talking. I'm trying to think what we got next week. We've got
the National Treasure doesn't start next week. I think we've got 2 weeks for that, right?
So we won't have.
No, I think it's just stuff in progress next week. So.
We've got the Adina Menzel special.
Okay, that should be entertaining.
And yeah, the finale. So we've got the finale of the Mysterious Benedict Society. So we'll have a bit of a chat about that whole series next week. Yeah. So I think that's going to be it. So on that note, guys, thank you very much. We'll be back next week, as I said, with a new episode. Remember to check us out over on the YouTube channel for daily Disney updates. Plus, you've obviously got the website. And on that note, guys, thank you very much. See you guys soon. Later. Thank you very much for watching this video. Make sure you go check us out over at whatsondisneyplus.com. Like, follow, and subscribe. Also, a huge thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon and also on our YouTube channel memberships. And I shall see you guys in another video. Laters.